Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Monotui, coach of the Tampa Bay Luxrays, and today I'm bringing you guys the Week 3 team builder for GBA Season 7. This week we are going to be going up against Lars, aka El Sizzler. Definitely check out his link in the description below. He is a very good guy, a good friend of mine, and a good battler as well. I apologize if my commentary seems a little bit lackluster. I'm pretty sick. I got a pretty sore throat. It kind of hurts to talk, runny nose, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to be trying to be as enthusiastic as I can, but it's going to be a little difficult when you can barely breathe. But regardless, I wanted to bring you guys this team builder, and I really want to bring you guys the match that'll be going up tomorrow. So without further ado, let's just get into Lars's roster and see the potential mons he's going to be able to bring. So Lars' roster consists of, and it'll be popping up on screen now, Magirna, Latias, Nihilego, Decidui, Donphan, Lucario, Primarina, Rotom Heat, Mesprit, Tornadus Incarnate, and Crawdaunt. So he's got quite a few wall breakers in there. He's got Magirna, Crawdaunt, Lucario, Primarina, even Nihilego can be a wall breaker at times. He's got some good bulky offense, like Magirna's fat and can hit things very hard. Same thing with Latias, same thing with Nihilego on the special side. Decidui is very bulky, can also be offensive as well. Same with Primarina, really good Spadef that still hits like a truck. Even things like Mesprit and Tornai can be bulky if they're built so. So, very good team he's got going on there. One kind of a problem with this team is that the fastest thing he has is in Tornadus Incarnate, so I will be able to outspeed that thing with at least 2 members on my team, as well as a possible Scarfer, which is very nice. But without further ado, let's just get into the team of 6 that I'm going to be bringing against him that should be able to take on whatever team of 6 he decides to bring. So starting off, we have our Miltank. We're running a Choppleberry, mostly physically defensive Miltank. We have a little bit of speed on there. With this speed investment, I'll be able to outspeed a max speed Timid Primarina by a few points. The extra points I added are just in case he decides to try and speed creep me with something like Mesprit or Decidui. I just have a few speed points in there just to beat them. We're running a Choppleberry. That's just so that I can take 1 hit from Lucario. If you look at my team, it's very weak to Lucario. It's a very big problem. If he sets up a Swords Dance, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm going to have to check it offensively with something like my Zygarde or something like my Jirachi. But if he's not set up a Swords Dance, he can freely click Close Combat against my team. And if I'm in with Miltank, he has pretty much no reason to not click Close Combat. However, with the Choppleberry, I will be able to live a very powerful, like, Lay 4 Close Combat, or even an Aura Sphere if he has it, and hit him with a Fire Punch, doing a lot of damage to him, especially after a defense drop from Close Combat. Also, I'm running Fire Punch over Earthquake for 2 main reasons. One, I didn't want to risk him being like a random Magnet Rise Lucario set, because if he runs Magnet Rise and I go for Earthquake and I can't touch it, then I have to switch out and sack something, because nothing on my team wants to take a Life 4 Close Combat at all. Like, Zygarde with its bulk doesn't want to take it, or an Ice Punch. Same thing with, like, Jirachi, even though it's kind of bulky, does not want to take a Close Combat, and then even though Salazzle resists, it's not going to want to take a Close Combat at all. So I'm going to be in a lot of trouble if he does end up being Magnet Rise to dodge an Earthquake. So there's that reason. And also I have Fire Punch just so that I can touch the Decidui, because if I had Earthquake, it would be a complete counter to me, and it would be able to gain easy initiative versus me, and I wouldn't be able to do anything versus it. So there's that. This is also going to be my Stealth Rocker this game. It gets up rocks pretty safely versus a good number of his team, which is very nice. We're also running Thick Fat so that we can deal with things like the Rotom Heat, as well as possible, like, Ice Beams from things like Primarina, if he decides to do that, or like Heat Wave from Tornadus Incarnate. You can take those on. I can also take 1 of any hit from Crawdaunt and hit it with a Body Slam. I won't be doing a lot of damage to it, but maybe I can land a Para, which is going to be kind of nice. Because also, if you look at my team, I don't really have a Crawdaunt switch in. That's also a pretty big problem to my team, but you know, we'll have to deal with that when we get there. I do check it offensively pretty well, and like I said, we'll just have to deal with it when we see it. That's our Miltank. There isn't too much else to go over. It's a relatively standard spread, physically defensive. The Choppleberry I already explained, the moveset I already explained, so instead let's just move on to our Jirachi, and this is kind of an interesting Jirachi set. As you can see, we're bringing an Assault Vest variant, speedy offensive with an Assault Vest, Iron Head, Fire Punch, U-Turn, and Grass Knot. Grass Knot is specifically there for the Donphan. Even though it hits the Primarina super effectively, Iron Head is still going to do more to that thing because Primarina's Spadef is really high, where its Fizz Def is not nearly as high. Grass Knot, even though we are running a minus special attack nature, should be a 2 KO on Donphan, on physically defensive Donphan. If he has some special defense investment, it won't be a 2 KO. However, like I said, with Rocks up, assuming he's going to be physically defensive or offensive in some way, Grass Knot will be able to 2 KO him, which is going to be kind of nice. We have Ironhead there just because of stab, as well as the possibility to flinch his team, because I do outspeed a good majority of his team, and I will be able to possibly spam Ironhead across it and get a few flinches going my way. We have Fire Punch there to hit the Lucario as well as the Magearna super effectively, which is going to be very nice. We have U-Turn on there as well to gain ourselves some initiative versus things like Latias, as well as things like Mesprit, and possibly things like Crawdaunt. I can get a little chip damage off on Crawdaunt and put it in range of Grass Knot later on, which is kind of nice. And we're running the Assault Vest because when you look at his team, it's very heavy on the specially offensive side, and a lot of those specially offensive threats I don't have great responses to. I could have brought like a fully specially defensive Jirachi, but doing that would have made me lose out on move coverage because I would have wanted Wish Protect, which I didn't want to do, and it would lower my power because I would be investing in Spadef instead of any attack. And when you look at his team, he's got some scary things that I don't want to be passive against. Like, he could be like a bulk up Tornadus Incarnate, and if I'm fully Spadef, I'm not going to be able to beat that thing 1v1, which is going to be scary. He could be like a Swords Dance Lucario, and if I'm Spadef and I'm slower than it, and then he sets up to +2, I can't do enough with Fire Punch, and then he's going to do a lot of damage back to me. Even something like Donphan, like I said, if I were running Wish Protect, I wouldn't be able to really run Grass Knot, and then I wouldn't be able to touch that thing. So basically, I wanted the ability to be offensive, but still to take hits from things like Magearna, like Latias, from Nihilego, like Lucario, even if I have to, like things like Tornadus Incarnate. I'm not too KO'd by Heat Wave, which is very nice. So again, I wanted to be able to take on his special threats while still being able to apply some decent offensive pressure, which I think this Assault Vest Jirachi allows me to do. I can definitely be worn down because I'm going to be switching into a lot of special attacks with this thing. Like, this is my best switch into Primarina, it's my best switch into Magearna, my best switch into Latias, Nihilego. So it can definitely get kind of pressured early, but I'm going to do my best to prevent that from happening. And even though it will be kind of pressured offensively, I can pressure his team offensively with this thing because, again, he doesn't have great switch-ins to it. As soon as Donphan's weakened a little bit, Grass Knot knocks it out. Latias doesn't beat me 1v1. Decidueye I can possibly flinch down and hit with super effective fire punches. Rotom Heat, if I have rocks up, is also going to be pressured, and I can U-turn out versus that thing to deal with it. So overall, Jirachi is just very, very solid versus this team, and I'm really looking forward to using this thing. Once again, even though I've mentioned this like twice already, main goal of this thing, to switch into his special threats and to threaten his team offensively with my move coverage, and possibly gain initiative with U-turn. But that's our Jirachi. Let us now move on to a member of my team I have not brought yet this season, and it's making its debut, and that is going to be our Bisharp. We are running a Choice Scarf Bisharp with Defiant to counter possible defog from things like Latias. We have Knockoff, Ironhead, Pursuit, and Low Kick. Now, I'm running Choice Scarf to eliminate the chance of a 50-50 between like Sucker Punch and Pursuit versus his Latias. That's a big reason that I'm doing this. Also, I'll be able to outspeed a max speed Decidueye, no matter what, unless he's like a Choice Scarf Decidueye, which is going to be kind of nice. I'll be able to outspeed things like Tornadus Incarnate, which is great. I'll be able to outspeed +1 Crawdaunt, which is awesome. I can outspeed Non-Scarf Nihilego. And that's basically just why we're running Choice Scarf. It's a very good set versus his team. We have Knockoff, Ironhead, Pursuit, and Low Kick. I think I already went over that. I can't remember. But Knockoff is there as general stab. It gets rid of items, which is very nice. It can knock out things like Latias. It can get rid of possible switch-ins like Rotom Heat. It can get rid of that thing's item. It can get rid of Donphan's item, like if I knock off a Custap Berry or a Rocky Helmet or a Leftovers, that's going to be very useful for me. Can deal with the Mesprit very nicely. I have to be very careful with this thing that I don't give Lucario the option to set up, because if it sets up to +2 and like my Zygarde's weakened and my my Jirachi's weakened, that can be a very big problem. So I do have to be very careful of that thing. I don't think he's going to be justified. I feel like he'd be either Steadfast or Inner Focus, just so that he can get, just so that he can benefit from being flinched, or he can prevent himself from being flinched by my Jirachi, because when you see a Jirachi and you have a way to deal with being flinched, you usually go for it, because that thing is a nightmare to deal with. But also, the big move on there is Pursuit. That is mostly to pursuit his Latias as well as his Decidueye. When you look at his team, and I'm going to spoil my Zygarde set a little bit, his only switch into Thousand Arrows is his Decidueye. So if I'm able to Pursuit that thing, then my Zygarde is a very good spot, and I'll go over that a little bit more when I go over my Zygarde, because that's one of the biggest threats to his team, is that Zygarde. So this is our Bisharp. Like I said, the Choice Scarf allows me to outspeed and knock out Nihilego in one hit. Same thing with Latias. Same thing with Torn Eye. I can knock that thing out with a... I don't have Stone Edge. What am I talking about, Stone Edge? Live Low Kick instead of Stone Edge. Low Kick is just there to hit the Lucario, because like I said, if I can force him to not go in because I've revealed Low Kick, or if I can force him to not set up because I've revealed Low Kick already, that's going to be very useful for me, because Low Kick does a lot of damage to Lucario, and he's not going to feel safe trying to set up in my face if he knows that I have a Low Kick to possibly knock him out with. So that is going to be our Bisharp. Very useful mon versus his team. I'm hoping it'll put in a lot of work. It also can just straight up clean through his team. Like if I weaken the Primarina, and I weaken the Crawdaunt, and I weaken the Magearna, I can just kind of spam knockoff over the entirety of his team, which is kind of nice. Like, he doesn't have anything to happily switch into this dual stab other than kind of Donphan just because of its natural bulk. But even then, Donphan doesn't have recovery, and it'll be whittled down. I'm going to be able to get rid of that thing's item. So Bisharp actually has a very nice offensive role on this team against Lars, which I'm hoping to take advantage of. But regardless, that is our Bisharp. We're now going to move on to another kind of interesting set, and we're going to be going over our Greninja. So we are running fully physically offensive Greninja with the Grass Knot as well. So not entirely physically offensive, but max physically invested Greninja, Waterfall, Night Slash, Gunk Shot, and Grass Knot. Now, Nihilego has really, really good Spadef, and if he's running like kind of a bulky set, or if he's running like an Assault Vest or something along those lines, Life Orb or Specs Hydro Pump is not going to be able to knock him out, whereas Waterfall will be able to knock him out 100% of the time unless he's Pasho Berry. I believe Night Slash does a little bit more damage to Latias as well than Dark Pulse, even though I believe it's a knockout on both sides either way. I'll be able to do, like, I'm fine with Night Slash over Dark Pulse, especially on a physically offensive variant. Also, in OU, Assault Vest Magearna is one of the best ways to deal with Specs Greninja, or Greninja in general, just because it can take on Hydro Pumps relatively well. So if I'm running Waterfall and I'm running a physical set, I'll be able to do a little bit more damage to that thing, which is kind of nice. Decidueye, it doesn't really matter all that much. I'm thinking it might be more Spadef in order to deal with certain things on my team, but it could be physically defensive, it could be offensive, I have no idea. All I know is that I'm running Night Slash and it'll hit it super effectively, probably for a 2-hit KO. A big one he has is his Primarina. Primarina is also a very good Greninja counter. Especially if it's Assault Vest, it'll be able to switch into any sort of Hydro Pump or like Dark Pulse that I want to go for. And even though I am running Gunk Shot, if I were uninvested in Gunk Shot, like if I were uninvested in attack or I didn't have a lot of attack investment, it wouldn't be able to do enough to knock it out. Whereas because I'm fully physically offensive, all I need is a little bit of chip damage on that thing in order to knock it out with the Life Orb Gunk Shot, which is going to be very, very useful. Also, obviously, the reason we have Grass Knot as well is mostly for the Crawdaunt. Crawdaunt, like I said, very big problem to this team. Grass Knot will be able to get a lot of damage off onto it, and after a little bit of chip damage, I will be able to knock it out. I can also hit the Donphan with it in case I know he's a fully physically defensive Donphan, and I think Grass Knot will do a little bit more than Waterfall. That's our Greninja. There isn't too much else to go over. Like I said, fully physically offensive, max physically invested, I feel like is a little bit better of a bring this week than specially offensive. Largely because of possible Assault Vest Magearna, possibly an Assault Vest Nihilego, as well as the possibility of him bringing like an Assault Vest Primarina to deal with Special. Because I feel like Physical's going to throw him off, and I feel like he's going to prep entirely for Special, and he's not going to see fully physically offensive coming. So that is our Greninja. Like I said, very good bring this week against his team. Now let's move on to another member that I have not brought yet this season, and that is going to be our Salazzle. This is going to be a relatively standard set. We have a Toxic Plate, not necessarily super standard, but we have a Nasty Plot 3 attacks Salazzle, holding the Toxic Plate, boosting my Sludge Bomb by, I believe, 20%. We have enough speed to outspeed everything on his team. This is enough speed to outspeed his Tornadus Incarnate, which is very nice. With this move coverage, we hit pretty much everything on his team super effectively or neutrally, which is very, very nice. Like, we hit the Magearna and knock that thing out with +2 Flamethrower. We hit the Latias with a Sludge Bomb, and that'll do a lot of damage to it. We can knock out the Nihilego with a +2 Hidden Power Ground, which is very nice. From full, and without a Nasty Plot, I won't be able to knock it out, but assuming it's not Assault Vest, I will be able to knock it out with the Hidden Power Ground at +2, which is nice. I threaten Decidueye. I can threaten Donphan with the Flamethrower, which is nice. I knock out Lucario with the Flamethrower. I hit the Primarina very hard with the Sludge Bomb. Same thing with Rotom Heat. Like, I hit that thing very hard with Sludge Bomb. It's just a very good offensive threat versus this team. And if I'm able to set up a Nasty Plot, it's going to be very, very useful. Our ability was kind of not super useful this game. We have Oblivious over anything else. I guess if he's like Prankster Taunt on something like Tornadus, that can be kind of useful. But obviously I'm not running Toxic, so I don't need Corrosion this week, so I'm running Oblivious. But yeah, this is just very nice versus this team. I do, even though I have the 44 EVs in defense, I still die to Life Orb Crawdon Aqua Jet, just because Crawdon is a monster. I do have to be very careful of possible Scarfers, like Scarf Latias just knocks me out. Scarf Nihilego just knocks me out. Like, there's a lot of things on his team that just straight up OHKO me, because Salazzle's very frail and he has a lot of super effective coverage versus me. But I do outspeed the entirety of his team, and there's a very good possibility I'll be able to knock out whatever wants to knock me out before they're able to actually accomplish what they want to accomplish. So that's our Salazzle. Very good threat versus his team. Can possibly clean up late game if I set up a Nasty Plot. Do have to be careful of Scarfers though, but if he has something like a Scarf Latias and he has something like maybe a Scarf Mesprit and he goes for Psychic, I do have my Bisharp, which I can hard switch into. And since they're locked into Psychic, they have to switch out, and I can possibly knock them out with the Pursuit. So these two Pokemon kind of pair nicely together. That's something I can definitely take advantage of. And it all depends on the team he brings. If I discover that he's not Scarf Latias, I can knock him out with +2 Sludge Bomb after some damage. If he is Scarf, I do have my Bisharp to immediately threaten it afterwards. Because also, like, just him knowing that I have a Bisharp is going to really deter him from ever clicking Psychic with one of his Psychic type Pokemon, because that's just a Pursuit Trap waiting to happen. But enough of that. That is our Salazzle, very big threat versus his team. Now let's move on to one of the biggest win conditions versus his team, and that is going to be our Zygarde 50%. So we are running a very speedy Zygarde this week. We are running Choice Bandit as well. 1000 Arrows, Outrage, Extreme Speed, and Crunch. 1000 Arrows obviously hits his entire team. It hits his entire team neutrally or super effectively, other than the Decidueye, which, like I mentioned earlier, is a big reason that we have our Bisharp. We also have Crunch on our Zygarde in case we predict the Decidueye to want to come in and we click Crunch, or I click Crunch, and then I'll be able to possibly get a 2 KO off onto that thing. We have Outrage there. It's just a strong move to run in case like his fairies are down and I just want a powerful move to spam. I can click Outrage. Extreme Speed for the priority is always very nice. If he has a weakened Latias or a weakened Tornadus Incarnate or something that's faster than me, I can pick it off with Extreme Speed, which is going to be very nice. The speed that we have on this thing, this is just so that I can outspeed a max speed Jolly Lucario, which is going to be very nice. I can outspeed that thing, knock it out with 1000 arrows. If he has extreme speed, he needs to get up to, I believe, +4 in order to knock me out. He might even need to get up to +6 in order to knock me out, because Zygarde's bulk is absolutely ridiculous. I know it definitely doesn't knock me out at +2, which is very important. This is, like I said, it's a gigantic threat versus this team. It knocks out Magearna, it can knock out Latias, it knocks out Nihilego, it does a lot of damage to Donphan, and there isn't too much Donphan can do back to me. Like, Ice Shard is not going to be a 2 KO. It knocks out the Lucario, it easily 2 KOs the Primarina, and I do outspeed it. It knocks out the Rotom Heat from full, it can 2 KO the Mesprit, it can 2 KO the Tornadus, it can 2 KO the Crawdon. So this is a huge, huge threat to his team. Once I whittle his team down a little bit, he is going to have absolutely no switch into this thing whatsoever, and it's going to be able to just clean sweep through his team. Maybe not necessarily sweep through his team, because he does have things that are faster that can threaten me, like a possible Latias, or like even Tornadus Incarnate with HP Ice or Icy Wind or something along those lines can kind of check me. But like I said, he has absolutely no switch into this thing, and it comes in for free against a lot. It comes in versus the Rotom on a free switch, it comes in on the Lucario on a free switch, it can come in on a weakened Primarina, it can come in on a weakened Crawdon, on a Magearna, it can come in on afterwards. So Zygarde, it's a huge, huge problem to his team. Setup Zygarde was also a big issue to his team, but I decided I wanted to just hit hard right off the bat. I didn't want to waste time setting up versus his team when I can just smack him with a Choice Bandit 1000 arrows and do a lot of damage to anything that wanted to come in. So that is going to be our Zygarde, and that is going to be our team against Lars of the Borussia Donphan. So I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching very much. Like I said, I apologize that my voice is a little bit off. I am still sick. I'm hopefully going to be getting over that by the time the next team builder has to go up, and the next the next game has to go up. But regardless, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the match.